Welcome back. Today we're recapping I'll Become a Villainess Who Goes Down in History, covering the key moments, major twists, and everything you need to know. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Now, let's get started. A young woman remembers admiring the villainess of her favorite romance game far more than its saintly heroine. She then awakens as 7-year-old Alicia Williams, the very antagonist she once idolized. The contradiction becomes impossible to ignore. Instead of fearing her doomed role, Alicia treats reincarnation as an opportunity. She vows to become a legendary villainess through real discipline, intelligence, and strength rather than shallow cruelty. That promise becomes the standard she follows. Her first step is physical training. Alicia persuades her older brother Albert to teach her swordsmanship, accepting a punishing daily routine of push-ups and conditioning before he will even hand her a blade. She also studies the world's magic, where noble families inherit elemental mana, and the 5 greatest houses support the crown. Because the Williams family specializes in darkness, Alicia sees enormous potential in her birthright. Days become months as Alicia divides her time between books and relentless exercise. Her family is baffled by the former spoiled child, but she keeps her memories secret and refuses to slow down. When Albert prepares to visit the Magic Academy, Alicia learns that the game's principal love interests are already gathered there. She immediately begins planning how to build a reputation worthy of their future enemy. Among those boys is Prince Duke Seeker, the blue-haired heir and the heroine's main romantic route. Alicia finds him dangerously charming, yet reminds herself that a proper villainess must never lose focus. Alicia formally meets Duke and the sons of the great houses. Their polite curiosity gives her a chance to display perfect manners before she shocks everyone by insisting on joining the sword practice. Albert finally keeps his promise, and Alicia trains for the next year without complaint. Duke begins visiting the Williams estate frequently, intrigued by the little girl whose ambitions are unlike anyone else's. At the palace, the king and the 5 great houses discuss poverty in the sealed village of Rowana and the appearance of a golden rose, an omen that the legendary saint has been born. The king summons 8-year-old Alicia and unexpectedly asks for her view of the kingdom. Realizing this is a political test, she openly condemns an economy that concentrates wealth among nobles while commoners starve. Pressed for a solution, Alicia proposes supporting a neighboring territory's independence and securing favorable trade afterward. The answer is calculating, peaceful, and useful, exactly the kind of villainous statecraft she admires. The immediate consequence changes what follows. Duke later finds Alicia alone and gives her a diamond pendant for her birthday. She does not understand his growing affection, but accepts the treasure and promises herself she will someday face him confidently. Meanwhile, the golden rose confirms that a girl with extraordinary power will guide the kingdom beside royalty. The court celebrates the omen, unaware that Alicia intends to challenge that chosen heroine at every turn. 2 years pass. Alicia is now 10, still studying and training while Albert attends the academy where the game's central story has begun. She grows impatient to meet the heroine and test herself. During a trip into town with her brothers, Alicia visits a herbal shop run by Paul, a nature mage who values plants for their practical healing power rather than noble prestige. The moment becomes impossible to forget. Her knowledge of medicinal herbs surprises the adults, though Alicia hides how much she has studied. She also asks to take the official sword examination, only for her worried father to refuse. Alicia protests that her brothers tested at the same age, but her father postpones the matter until she enters the academy. His real fear is that her unusual skill will attract dangerous political attention. Frustrated, Alicia secretly visits Rowana, the village sealed behind a magical barrier for generations. Inside, she discovers hunger, illness, and children branded as criminals simply because of where they were born. The village finally gains a path forward. An elderly exile named Will shows her a feverish orphan called Gil. The boy is brilliant but distrustful, and without medicine he will die before his talent ever has a chance to matter. Alicia rushes back to Paul's shop for a fever-reducing herb. She insists this is not charity, yet the sight of Gil suffering exposes how powerless her grand ambitions still are. Gil carries that promise into every lesson. Determined to gain power that can change real lives, Alicia searches the family library and discovers grimoires as organized by magical level. She starts with basic telekinesis and advances at a startling pace. Her enthusiasm becomes dangerous. Alicia practices until fever and exhaustion overwhelm her, proving that talent cannot replace control, stamina, or patience when mana is pushed beyond the body's limits. The next level demands stricter control, not bravado. The king visits again and asks whether she respects the kingdom's political order. Alicia answers that a system granting power solely through magical birth wastes gifted commoners and rewards incompetent nobles. Every advance now carries a visible cost. She even admits that another family should replace the Williams house if it serves the country better. The king is impressed, but Alicia collapses from overwork before the meeting can fully conclude. Duke catches the unconscious Alicia and remains beside her while medicine is prepared. His fear reveals feelings far deeper than brotherly concern, though Alicia is too weak to recognize them. Their bond becomes harder for either to deny. After recovering, Alicia sneaks into the enormous magic academy to investigate the game's setting for herself. She quickly gets lost, but refuses to turn back before learning what the heroine has already changed. A kind green-eyed commoner named Liz Cather finds her and offers help. Alicia realizes too late that this cheerful student is the game's heroine and the newly discovered saint. Good intentions no longer excuse harmful results. Liz leads Alicia toward the academy buildings, speaking to her without concern for rank. Alicia is embarrassed to owe her rival a favor, especially when Liz immediately returns to Prince Duke's side. While exploring alone, Alicia answers an advanced public question about a neighboring country's economic collapse. Her ruthless proposal to exploit the crisis alarms students and secretly impresses the king's observers. That logic later shapes the kingdom's reforms. Alicia overhears adults discussing whether Liz is an otherworldly chosen figure whose influence may threaten the kingdom. She promises silence, while privately deciding that the heroine deserves closer study. The saint's certainty begins to fracture. At the Williams estate, Liz visits with the academy boys to plan a festival performance. Alicia rejects the idea of joining her on stage and refuses to attack Liz merely for being a commoner. Liz responds by asking endless friendly questions, convinced that enough conversation can make anyone close. Alicia finds the optimism exhausting, yet notices how easily everyone else is drawn to it. Admiration is slowly turning into dependence. When Liz creates flowers with magic, Alicia instinctively answers with magic of her own. The adults panic because children are forbidden to cast before 13, when unstable mana can permanently destroy their abilities. Will explains that reckless advancement once cost a prodigy all magical power. Alicia agrees to train in strict stages, but still visits Roanna, where Gil has finally recovered from his fever. Roanna's future now depends on sustained effort. Gil angrily rejects the noble girl who saved him, believing she can never understand his life. Alicia answers that he may choose death, but she will not let fear make that choice for him. She offers Gil a place at her side, openly saying she intends to use his intelligence as her future servant. Her harsh honesty reaches him more effectively than pity, and he accepts. At court, the king confirms Liz as the saint marked by the golden rose. He also orders Alicia's family to monitor her magical growth, recognizing that both girls could shape the kingdom. Liz loses control of her mana during festival rehearsal, but Duke and the teachers contain it. Alicia is relieved because she wants a worthy rival, not a heroine destroyed before their contest begins. The incident convinces the king to admit Alicia early once she turns 13. She spends the next 3 years studying swordsmanship and magic, advancing without another loss of control. She treats the warning as another discipline. At 13, Alicia reaches level 80 and receives permission to enter the academy. The king then asks her to watch Liz and challenge the saint's naive ideas before she gains political authority. Albert warns that opposing Liz could make Alicia hated by the entire school, where students already worship the saint without question. Alicia accepts immediately, calling it the perfect role for a villainess. Before taking the king's mission, Alicia demands one condition. Gil must be allowed to leave Roanna and attend her as a servant. The king agrees, creating the first legal path out of the village. Gil accepts eagerly, though his departure shocks Roanna. Alicia tells him the village is finally drawing national attention, and that his success can prove its people were never born criminals. The residents must turn hope into structure. Before leaving, Alicia uses purification magic to clean water for an injured woman named Rebecca. The wound is too severe to save her leg, but Alicia refuses to accept that death is inevitable. She forces healing magic beyond its normal cosmetic use, stabilizes Rebecca, and amputates the ruined limb. The brutal rescue succeeds, leaving the village with a living witness to change. This replaces charity with lasting capability. Alicia recruits Rebecca as an informant and public organizer. Instead of handing Roanna charity, she wants the residents to build hope, cooperate, and become capable of demanding freedom themselves. The change gives ordinary people real leverage. Rebecca agrees to become the village's visible symbol while Alicia quietly supplies knowledge and opportunities. Will chooses to remain in Roanna, determined to witness whether its people can transform their future. Progress now belongs to the residents themselves. Alicia returns home and reminds her father that he promised to explain the sword exam ban. He admits she was already too skilled, and the family feared the attention her victory would attract. Her academy debut begins with gossip about her commoner servant. When students grab at her without permission, Alicia knocks them away, creating exactly the dramatic entrance she wanted. Its effects reach far beyond the room. Liz orders Alicia to apologize, insisting kindness could have prevented the conflict. Alicia refuses to display weakness before the crowd, and Duke openly supports her despite the saint's objections. His restraint only makes the feeling clearer. Later, Alicia confronts Liz's report, arguing that removing Roanna's barrier will make everyone equal. She calls the proposal a beautiful fantasy that ignores resentment, hunger, crime, and the need for preparation. The village begins building power from within. Liz says forgiveness and goodwill can create peace. Alicia counters that real reform requires resources, sequence, and responsibility, because the weakest people suffer first when idealism collapses. Her kindness now carries consequences she cannot see. Alicia also argues that differences in talent and circumstance cannot simply be erased. Equal dignity matters, but suppressing ability in the name of equality would create another kind of injustice. The crowd finally sees the conflict clearly. Liz admits her plan lacks detail but refuses to abandon the goal of universal happiness. Alicia respects that persistence, even while declaring that the saint must learn how merciless reality can be. Their first public battle ends without agreement. Liz's admirers close around her, while Alicia leaves satisfied that she has finally become the opponent who will force the heroine to grow. The difference between belief and judgment keeps widening. Alicia's constant criticism earns her the hatred she expected, but it also forces students to question ideas they once accepted automatically. She treats the hostility as proof that her role is working. In Roanna, Rebecca reports that Alicia's rescue has awakened hope, though many residents still threaten violence if the barrier falls. Alicia accepts that change will require years, not one dramatic gesture. Their survival is no longer purely accidental. Rebecca asks for seeds that can survive Roanna's climate. Alicia refuses to call it a gift, but agrees in exchange for detailed reports, turning aid into a bargain that preserves the villagers' agency. Henry privately tells Alicia that Liz has changed his twin Alan. After the debate, Henry realized the saint's arguments were weak, yet everyone around her attacked Alicia without considering the facts. The Academy's devotion becomes harder to explain. The king invites Alicia, Liz, and the Academy's leading boys to tea for the saint's next test. Alicia understands that he is evaluating both Liz's judgment and her own ability to oppose it. The king presents an economic crisis in the neighboring nation of Duran. Liz immediately favors compassionate aid, while Alicia warns that one charitable shipment cannot rebuild an entire country's economy. Her influence grows more troubling with every incident. Alicia proposes securing Duran before the hostile kingdom of Laval can absorb it. Her answer sounds ruthless, but she explains that protecting Durkis may also prevent a far larger war. Her reasoning exposes the practical cost of inaction. Liz suggests promoting Duran's unusual potatoes as an export product. The court praises her, but Alicia recognizes that the useful idea only emerged after she forced everyone to examine the crisis realistically. After tea, Alicia notices an empty space among royal portraits and learns that the king once had an older brother. Duke resembles the missing man, hinting at a family history deliberately erased. Duke escorts Alicia through the palace and admits he knows how deeply Roanna concerns her. His attention becomes increasingly personal, while she still assumes destiny will eventually pair him with Liz. Roanna finally receives a workable route ahead. Henry asks whether Liz could be using magic, because her admirers treat every ordinary statement as revelation. Alicia dismisses deliberate manipulation, but admits that this world no longer follows the game exactly. Duke warns Gil that strong emotions could make him Alicia's weakness. Gil initially resents the prince, then accepts that both of them want enough strength to protect the same person. Alicia still cannot answer him honestly. Alicia confesses to Henry that she genuinely wants to become a villainess, not merely play one. He finds the dream absurd, yet begins supporting her because her actions consistently improve people's lives. That night, unknown attackers abduct Alicia and Gil. A suppression collar blocks her darkness magic, and the kidnappers threaten to kill the boy unless she submits without resistance. The boy turns gratitude into disciplined ambition. Alicia wakes bound inside a remote shed with Gil injured beside her. Outnumbered and unable to cast, she relies on swordsmanship, timing, and the determination that neither of them will die there. She breaks free and defeats the kidnappers without killing them, even while they target Gil. The restraint proves that Alicia's harsh persona is supported by judgment rather than uncontrolled violence. His loyalty is chosen, never demanded. Duke and the Academy group arrive after the fight. Alicia is badly wounded, Gil can barely stand, and the prince's terror turns to anger when he sees how close they came to dying. Liz condemns Alicia for using force, claiming honest conversation and faith would have brought rescue. Albert echoes her, horrifying Alicia because he dismisses the danger to his own sister. The inconsistency is now undeniable. Duke rejects Liz's reasoning and says anyone protecting a child had the right to fight back. His cold response reveals that even the saint's influence cannot override his concern for Alicia. The prince chooses her freedom over control. While Henry treats the injured, Duke carries Alicia away and begs her to value her own life. She finally understands that his devotion is romantic, not the affection of an older brother. The realization shakes Alicia because the game promised Duke to Liz. She refuses to exploit his kindness, deciding that the villainess she wants to become must win honestly rather than steal affection through circumstance. Back at the estate, Duke remains beside Alicia until she wakes. Albert misreads the scene, but Gil explains that the prince saved them and has earned a place among Alicia's protectors. Their partnership deepens beneath the argument. Gil asks to keep Alicia's lost tooth as a reminder of the day he failed to protect her. He vows to become stronger, while she promises that survival, not guilt, must guide that strength. The kidnappers were hired by Neil Jones, an obsessive follower of Liz. The royal family punishes his house for smuggling a suppression collar and allowing outsiders into the academy grounds. Kind motives cannot erase the damage already done. Evidence suggests the king allowed the crisis to continue as a test for the saint, expecting Liz to resolve it. Instead, her response exposes how badly she misunderstands danger and responsibility. Liz's unquestioned confidence finally starts breaking. Duke tells Alicia that destiny will not choose his partner for him. He has already chosen her, and he intends to reach his own happy ending, regardless of the legend. Neither of them can return to simple friendship. Alicia resumes training because the kidnapping proved level 80 is not enough. She refuses to be remembered only as a prince's wife and wants a name history will recognize as her own. Her father decides the mission around Liz has become too dangerous and orders Alicia to withdraw. She argues that accepting risk was her own choice and asks for another chance. Concern is gradually hardening into unhealthy dependence. He reveals that Liz has surpassed level 80 in every element, making Alicia's position even more perilous. Rather than retreat, Alicia promises to close that impossible gap through work. Her compassion now creates consequences beyond her sight. Her father sets one condition. Alicia may return to the mission only after reaching level 90. She seals herself behind a barrier, determined to master ancient darkness magic regardless of the years required. With Alicia isolated, Gil studies at the academy and lives as her official servant. Luxuries such as a full meal remind him how little Rowana had, strengthening his resolve to justify her faith. Alicia's father gives Gil the potion needed to cross Rowana's barrier and admits that the boy is the one friend she chose for herself. He asks Gil to remain her honest support. Inside the village, Rebecca organizes farming based on Alicia's research. Resistant crops finally produce a rich harvest, proving that knowledge and cooperation can accomplish more than temporary charity. Rowana's survival now requires patient collective effort. Some residents still call Alicia a noble playing with poor people. Rebecca answers that Alicia taught them how to feed themselves, leaving responsibility for the next step in their own hands. The villagers must convert hope into organization. The king formally gives Duke authority over Rowana's reform. He admits that generations of rulers ignored the village because larger problems always seemed more urgent, and he refuses to repeat that failure. Duke argues that the crown must delegate ordinary administration instead of letting every issue wait for one exhausted king. His proposal becomes another practical reform inspired by Alicia's thinking. His actions keep challenging her assumptions about destiny. At the academy, rumors blame Alicia for Duke's cold treatment of Liz. Students who know nothing about her training call her a jealous homewrecker, and Gil struggles not to retaliate. The distance between them becomes increasingly personal. Duke is equally furious but refuses to let gossip determine his actions. He quietly orders his spy mail to investigate why people who once disliked Liz suddenly became devoted followers. Their growing connection becomes impossible to dismiss. Liz keeps trying to cheer Duke with sweets, believing persistence will restore his smile. Her friends encourage her, while Duke's attention remains fixed on the absent Alicia. Duke's restraint makes his feelings even clearer. Henry explains that Alicia develops her body because advanced magic depends on physical endurance. Her obsession is not jealousy of Liz, but a refusal to criticize anyone from a position of weakness. Months pass, then a full year. Alicia remains behind her barrier, still unable to break level 90, while the academy becomes increasingly unstable without her opposition to the saint. This turns temporary aid into lasting capacity. The king's advisors notice that even ordinary gossip around Liz changes unnaturally fast. Mel's covert investigation begins linking the academy's emotional extremes to something stronger than admiration. The gap between faith and judgment keeps expanding. Duke continues Rowana's reform but refuses to let Mel investigate Alicia's private life, admitting he wants to remain the person who understands her best. His jealousy amuses the spy. The reform gives commoners practical political leverage. Alicia's family repeatedly asks her to return, yet she declines even after turning 15. She will not leave until the spell she seeks is complete, because its purpose matters more than school. 2 years after her isolation began, Gil hears that the barrier has finally fallen. Everyone rushes to the guest house, uncertain whether Alicia succeeded or simply exhausted herself. Future progress now rests with Rowana's residents. Alicia emerges older, calmer, and stronger at level 91. She greets Gil with genuine warmth, then immediately insists on visiting Rowana before returning home or the academy. Rowana starts creating strength from inside its community. Gil can barely speak when he sees Alicia again, but she wastes no time on ceremony. Her first concern is whether Rowana has changed enough to survive once its barrier disappears. Their survival is becoming deliberate, not accidental. The village is transformed by fields, shared work, and Rebecca's leadership. No child died of hunger that year, yet a young protector named Nate still refuses to trust the noble girl behind it. Alicia challenges Nate to a sword duel so they can judge each other through action. She defeats him cleanly, then explains that privilege gave her training he never had. The result reshapes every choice afterward. Rather than demanding loyalty, Alicia tells Nate to use her resources and become strong enough to oppose her. The offer turns his suspicion into a practical reason to cooperate. Nothing returns to the previous balance afterward. Alicia then reveals the real purpose of her 2-year training. Using an ancient level 91 spell, she transfers one of her own eyes to the blind will. The magic changes what she believes possible. Will sees the villagers' faces for the first time in years. Alicia calls the sacrifice a selfish decision, because she wanted the man who guided her to witness Rowanna's future himself. Residents gain a practical way forward. Her father is devastated when she returns home with one eye, but Alicia refuses to apologize for living by her principles. He accepts the choice, while promising he will never stop worrying. Gil crafts an elegant eye patch, and Alicia chooses a striking black and red outfit for her return. She intends the academy to remember that the villainess has come back stronger. He begins building a future beyond Rowanna. At the academy, a devoted follower of Liz mocks Alicia's appearance. Alicia dismantles the girl's insults one by one, exposing how little confidence hides beneath borrowed righteousness. The academy's obsession becomes increasingly difficult to explain. Liz arrives and insists on hearing both sides, saying she regrets judging Alicia during the kidnapping. She explains that good fortune has always rewarded her faith, so she assumed belief would save everyone. Alicia challenges that worldview. She points out that Liz could have restrained both sides during the kidnapping, yet her magic stopped Alicia alone and left the attackers free. Each new incident makes Liz's influence more alarming. Liz denies deliberate harm, but Alicia warns that wishing for a happy ending is not enough. Anyone claiming they will save everyone must develop a plan and accept the consequences of failure. A placement examination confirms Alicia and Gil can study with the graduating class. The professor praises Gil's self-education, while admitting commoner status will still close most careers to him. That trust gives him a new direction. Duke confronts Alicia over the eye she sacrificed after he spent 2 years watching her train. She rejects his protection too harshly and realizes she has wounded someone who genuinely loves her. For the first time, Alicia feels ashamed of her villainous act. She can challenge enemies without hesitation, but Duke's grief leaves her flustered, remorseful, and unable to find the right words. Alicia remains unable to answer him plainly. Alicia joins the graduating class with Gil, stunning students who expected her to start at the bottom. She pretends the younger curriculum bored her, hiding how hard they work to catch up. Liz again asks Alicia to become friends, admitting she once assumed everyone must like her. Alicia recognizes some growth but still refuses to let the heroine turn rivalry into effortless harmony. Everyone present must confront that inconsistency. Alicia finally accepts that Duke is special to her. Instead of avoiding him, she apologizes for dismissing his concern and demands that he protect her openly rather than working behind her back. Duke agrees and promises to act honestly from now on. Their reconciliation also makes Liz recognize Alicia as a genuine romantic rival instead of merely an unpleasant critic. Duke chooses Alicia's freedom instead of possession. Soon after, an anxious student tries to lure Alicia away without explanation. Alicia refuses, and a second student secretly records their brief exchange using earth magic. Control matters more than spectacular raw power. A group of Liz's followers later accuses Alicia of abusing a timid girl named Marika. They present an audio recording that appears to prove Alicia threatened her in private. Compassion cannot excuse consequences this destructive. Alicia notices that the recording has been cut and rearranged. A quiet student named Carol asks everyone to hear both sides, preventing the crowd from condemning Alicia immediately. The shift is subtle, but permanently important. A complete recording exposes the setup. Marika admits that Jane ordered her to frame Alicia, because Jane believed punishing the saint's enemy would prove her devotion. The saint's perfect image starts coming apart. Liz accepts some responsibility because Jane acted in her name, but Alicia refuses an empty apology. She distinguishes between understanding Liz's influence and excusing deliberate wrongdoing. Devotion is quietly becoming emotional dependence. The unseen helper is revealed as Mel, an eccentric earth mage who adores Alicia and despises the Academy's blind worship of Liz. Her magic can record sound and conceal her presence. The school's devotion defies every rational explanation. Mel serves as Duke's personal spy and has monitored Alicia for her protection. Duke finally admits this because Alicia demanded honesty, while Mel celebrates the chance to speak with her idol. Their partnership strengthens through the disagreement. Alicia is irritated by the surveillance, yet accepts Mel as a useful ally. More importantly, Mel confirms that no ordinary mind control artifact explains Liz's unnatural influence. Her growing influence now threatens independent judgment. Gil gives Alicia space to face her feelings for Duke. She insists romance cannot distract her from becoming a historic figure, but her embarrassment proves that the prince already affects her deeply. Alicia and Gil return to Rowanna, where Will has gathered the village. The old man announces that he must reveal the past before they can decide what freedom should look like. The village's future requires more than inspiration. Will identifies himself as Will Seeker, the current king's elder brother and the original crown prince. Alicia realizes the missing royal portrait was not merely a family tragedy. Simple friendship is no longer possible for either. Because Will was erased from history, his presence in Rowanna could overturn the official story behind the village and the throne. He now intends to meet King Luke personally. Hope must now become durable political structure. The revelation connects Alicia's reforms to the royal family's deepest secret. Freeing Rowanna will require proving both Will's innocence and the corruption that condemned generations of residents. The reform creates capability instead of dependence. Will explains that he was born crown prince and devoted childhood to magic after losing his mother. By 10 he had reached level 80, then reckless ambition caused his mana to collapse forever. Unable to cast, Will was deemed unfit to inherit. His younger half-brother Luke became king, while Will stayed beside him as an advisor determined to support the crown. The adults can no longer dismiss her age. Will and 3 trusted nobles managed state policy while Luke approved their plans. Their partnership deteriorated when Will proposed limiting the enormous power of the 5 great houses. The lesson permanently changes how she trains. Luke rejected the plan under pressure from his mother. Soon afterward, Will was accused of preparing a coup, imprisoned, and secretly exiled to Roanna without a public trial. That change gives the powerless meaningful leverage. Official records claim the former prince vanished. The Queen Mother also expelled Will's 3 allies, ensuring that no powerful witness remained to challenge the fabricated treason charge. His choices keep overturning her beliefs about destiny. Will believes Luke eventually came to hate him, yet still blames his own pride for speaking down to his younger brother. Before demanding justice, he wants to apologize. This is strategy, not simple provocation. His larger goal is Roanna's freedom. The village now contains people born inside the barrier rather than convicted criminals. So preserving collective punishment serves no lawful purpose. The residents themselves must carry the reform forward. At the academy, Liz tries to reconcile with Jane, but her admirers again treat forgiveness as an order. Alicia warns that apologies mean little if people never confront why the harm occurred. Several students who insulted Alicia admit they were manipulated into a false accusation. She mocks their sudden tears, forcing them to accept responsibility instead of hiding behind Liz's kindness. The inconsistency now shapes every response. Liz objects to Alicia's cruelty, but new evidence shows the accusers had intentionally spread lies. The conflict exposes how Liz's protection can erase accountability when everyone rushes to comfort the wrongdoer. Kindness alone cannot repair deliberate harm. A report also reveals that a dangerous wolf from Laval somehow entered the academy and attacked Liz. Alicia suspects the neighboring kingdom was testing the Saint's power and Durkis's defenses. Liz's certainty can no longer remain intact. The incident convinces Alicia that her world extends far beyond the game's scripted romance. Foreign governments, disease, and succession politics are moving whether the heroine understands them or not. Public admiration keeps drifting toward dependence. Duke takes Alicia to his hidden room and reveals he had already contacted Will about reforming Roanna. He wants to handle the royal reunion himself so Alicia can pursue her larger ambitions. Alicia rejects being confined for her own safety. Duke answers that her refusal to live in a cage only makes him love her more, leaving her furious and visibly flustered. Their growing distance now feels painfully personal. Their argument ends without compromise, but it confirms they are now partners rather than prince and protected child. Both intend to reshape the kingdom, even when their methods collide. Neither can honestly deny their partnership anymore. A new lesson introduces a wasting illness spreading along the Digon River. Gil explains that polluted water damages internal organs, impressing the class despite nobles mocking his commoner background. His education becomes proof of Alicia's argument. The disease threatens regions downstream from Laval, including Roanna. Durkis has no cure, while a rare medicinal herb grows only on Laval's northern cliffs. The village begins creating its own resilience. Alicia wants to investigate Laval directly, both to find the medicine and learn who sent the wolf. Duke hates the danger, but knows imprisoning her would destroy what he loves. His reluctance makes the depth of feeling obvious. Gil encounters Liz in the library, where she asks him to describe Roanna. She admits her earlier report was shallow and says she wants to understand the village beyond her ideals. Roanna's survival now depends on informed choices. Gil refuses to speak for every resident, explaining that outsiders and villagers must build trust gradually. Liz compares it to befriending former bullies, but her influence begins affecting his emotions. The village finally sees a sustainable route ahead. Duke pulls Gil away before the feeling deepens. Mel reports that she still cannot identify ordinary control magic, strengthening the suspicion that Liz's power is unique to the Saint. Alicia still avoids giving Duke a direct answer. Alicia concludes that answers about the disease, the wolf, and foreign policy all lie in Laval. Since legal travel is impossible, she begins considering exile as a route across the border. That choice becomes a turning point. Before she can act, Jane attacks Carol with scissors for imitating Alicia's hairstyle. Carol's admiration enrages Jane, whose devotion to Liz has become unstable and violent. The devotion surrounding Liz now looks unmistakably unnatural. Alicia stops the assault but refuses to perform sympathy for the crowd. She says anyone who copies her should aspire to her principles, not merely imitate an eye patch or haircut. When another follower tries to cut Alicia's hair, Alicia takes the scissors herself and finishes the cut evenly. The bold response turns a humiliating attack into a new fashion across the academy. Carol is thrilled, but Alicia reminds her that admiration must become independent strength. A true follower cannot simply wait for an idol to solve every conflict. As students begin reconsidering Alicia, Liz's remaining followers accuse her of stealing attention. The academy splits between those still enchanted by the saint and those finally willing to question her. A crying girl is publicly humiliated for defending Alicia. Alicia drives the bullies away, cleans the girl's uniform with magic, and gives her privacy to recover without demanding gratitude. Her supposedly villainous conduct earns genuine loyalty because it protects dignity without pretending weakness is virtue. Even students who disliked her begin separating harsh words from malicious intent. Mel finally finds a decisive clue in an ancient text. The saint possesses an unconscious charm that makes ordinary people want to fulfill her wishes and interpret her words favorably. The discovery explains the Academy's sudden devotion, Jane's obsession, and Gil's confusion. People with exceptional will or mana can resist, but everyone else remains vulnerable without realizing it. Alicia now faces a harder problem than defeating Liz. She must help the saint control a power Liz never chose, before graduation turns accidental influence into national policy. Mel explains that Liz's charm is probably unconscious and that strong mana can resist it. The spell appears to weaken whenever people seriously question Liz instead of accepting her words automatically. Henry confirms that Duke warned the group not to let Liz deceive them. Some boys resist, but Albert and several others remain completely convinced that Alicia is trying to isolate the saint. Alicia tries to reach Liz, but Albert blocks every approach. Duke finally tricks the group, creating a private meeting where the two girls can speak without the enchanted followers interfering. Alicia shows Liz the ancient record and asks her to release the charm. Liz denies using magic because she has never consciously cast it and believes friendship alone created her popularity. Alicia points out that Albert obeys Liz without sharing her feelings. While countless students became loyal far too quickly, Liz is forced to consider that her wishes may have shaped people against their will. Liz then confesses that she tried to become the ideal saint because everyone expected it, especially after meeting Duke. Beneath the perfect smile, she has been terrified of failing that role. She admits loving Duke and resenting Alicia, whose confidence and independence seem effortless. Duke answers that even if he had met Liz first, he still would have chosen Alicia. The blunt rejection breaks Liz's performance. Albert finally resists the charm and chooses to protect his sister, while Liz's other admirers begin confronting the difference between respect and magical devotion. Alicia refuses to let Liz collapse into self-pity. She tells her to stop living for the title of saint and decide what kind of person she wants to become. Liz chooses an honest ideal. She wants to see people smile because of real help, not enchantment. Alicia accepts that version of her as a worthy rival and challenges her to improve. With the charm weakening, Liz's feelings for Duke fade into ordinary affection, yet she admits he was too appealing to surrender easily. The triangle finally becomes honest rather than magically distorted. That evening, Duke brings Alicia to the palace for Will's reunion with King Luke. The king has restored his brother's portrait, revealing that old hatred no longer controls him. Will's innocence can now be investigated openly. Rebecca's records also prove that Rowanna's current residents were born there, leaving no legal reason to preserve the barrier. Duke says Rowanna will soon be free and asks what reward Alicia wants for making it possible. She requests permission to stop monitoring Liz and pursue her own path for a while. Alicia believes Liz can now learn from many people instead of depending on one enemy. Duke accepts the request, then reminds Alicia that his confession still awaits an answer. Before Alicia can respond, Duke suddenly acts as though he has never met her. The impossible memory loss triggers an investigation that places Alicia herself under suspicion. Duke maintains a perfectly cold expression and denies knowing Alicia. Gil and the others are stunned, while the palace summons her to answer for an alleged attack on the crown prince. At the hearing, Mel claims Alicia used high-level darkness magic to erase Duke's memories. Alicia alone possesses enough power, and she refuses to explain the private royal meeting that provides her alibi. Instead of fighting the charge, Alicia returns Duke's pendant and invites the court to exile her. The sentence seems suspiciously quick, but exile grants legal entry into Laval, exactly what she wanted. The Academy celebrates her removal, unaware that Duke, the king, and Mel staged the entire trial. Duke's mana is too great for anyone else to alter his mind, making the supposed spell impossible. Will explains the plan to Liz and Gil. Duke recognized Alicia's desire to investigate Laval and created a route that protected the kingdom while preserving her freedom to act abroad. Liz is furious that Alicia intends to leave without answering Duke's confession. She warns that accepting endless devotion without giving a clear response would be the cruel kind of villainy Alicia claims to reject. Alicia admits Liz is right. She writes Duke an answer, entrusts Gil with the letter, and asks him to keep guiding Liz while proving that a commoner can equal any noble. Gil wants to accompany her, but Alicia says their ambitions now require separate roads. She promises they will meet again, once both have become strong enough to reshape the world. Rowanna's barrier finally falls under Duke and Liz's combined water magic. Sunlight reaches the village, and residents step beyond the boundary as free citizens for the first time. Alicia departs under guarded escort, officially a criminal but secretly the crown's investigator. She heads toward Laval to seek the cure, trace the wolf attack, and understand the neighboring kingdom. Duke remains behind to complete Rowanna's liberation. Through Gil's letter, he learns that Alicia cannot choose romance yet, because her dream still demands everything she has. Even so, Alicia promises that their next meeting will be different. She will return as a villainess powerful enough to captivate Duke more completely, turning rejection into a challenge for the future. Duke vows to follow when his duties allow, while Alicia faces the unknown beyond Dirkus with confidence. Her exile is not an ending, but the first step toward becoming a villainess history cannot forget.